All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about a rarity, a big name professional boxer predicting that Errol Spence Jr. will be too much for Terence Crawford, something we have not heard in a while. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We, in this video, are going to be back in the 147-pound division. We're actually going to talk about a couple things, but the big thing in the video that we're going to talk about is a prediction that was made for the Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford fight, or an observation that was made by former welterweight contender, very good fighter by the name of Fast Eddie Chambers. If you're not familiar with him, Fast Eddie used to have them hands. Now, before I get into that though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, hey, please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, if you are a longtime subscriber to the channel, thank you for your support. Make sure that you hit that like button and that share button. It really does help the channel grow. But even if you don't do that, man, let me thank you again for continuing to support the channel and the live streams that we do and the videos we do on a daily basis where we chop it up about boxing, man, because that's what the channel is about. It's about boxing conversations, whatever's hot in boxing, whatever people really want to talk about. It's a great place to get together and argue with one another and all that good old stuff that we like to do. All right, so let's get into this. We have a fight that may take place, may not take place. Who knows, right? Not Errol Spence Jr. doesn't know. Terence Crawford is probably the only person that really knows whether or not it is going to take place, because Terence Crawford is the one that knows what's in the back of his mind and whether or not he is going to ultimately accept this fight, or whether or not if he can't get what he wants, he's going to walk off and do something else. However, it still is a very fun conversation to have. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that'll say, well, not a lot, actually very few. However, when people don't like things, they tend to talk more than people that like things and appreciate them and are happy. They'll kind of take it in. You know what they say? If somebody's happy, they won't say anything. If they're not happy, they're going to complain to 30 people. And that's kind of how it goes with these conversations about boxing matches where we don't really know if it's going to actually happen or not. However, I'm one of these guys that do not mind. I actually enjoy that type of stuff, enjoy hearing what the boxing experts or former champions, expert boxers, casual boxing fans, hardcore boxing fans. I appreciate the whole conversation. So when I hear Fast Eddie Chambers, you know, coming back out and giving his opinion about what would transpire in the fight, my ears perk up, especially because, you know, over the course of maybe a few weeks, we had gotten basically a steady stream of people with the perspective that Terence Crawford was going to win the fight. So you start getting your comment section that everybody's picking Terence, which is not really the case. Once you had Roy Jones Jr., and who, by the way, really did not pick Terence Crawford. Didn't pick him as strongly as people imply that he did. Pretty much said that, look, you know, it could go either way. He leans with Terence Crawford, but if Terence can't do something to Errol in the first 6 rounds or so, that fight's going to be real tough because of how Errol comes on really tough, you know, at the end, right? But then there was also James Toney, who was like, hey, man, you know, within 6 rounds, Terence Crawford's going to get him out of there. And then you had Antonio Tarver give his 2 cents on it. But now Fast Eddie Chambers comes out and says, now, again, Fast Eddie Chambers is not a Hall of Fame level fighter, but he is a very experienced and very skilled fighter. And as you know, many of the best trainers in the world were not Hall of Fame fighters. A whole bunch of very good boxing analysts, matchmakers, and the such were not Hall of Fame fighters but they know how to call fights. They know what they're looking at in the ring because they are fighters or because they have a lot of experience watching it or what have you. So Fast Eddie Chambers says, look, man, I got Errol Spence because I just don't know how Terence Crawford is going to keep that guy off of him. It's just not something that the way that Errol Spence Jr. works his way into, similar to what Paulie Malignaggi said. And you may not like Paulie Malignaggi's politics, but Paulie Malignaggi knows boxing. Is actually fairly good at predicting fights and is somebody that, like I said, you may not like his political beliefs and some of the things he says around there, but he will let you know what he actually thinks, which is a bit of a credit to Paulie. I'd rather know what somebody thinks than not know what they think and have him acting, in a different way. Whatever the case is, Paulie Malignaggi said, look, when he was talking to Roy Jones Jr. and talking to Antonio Tarver, look, this guy works himself. Errol Spence Jr. is not this come forward fighter that is just, kind of slipping his way in underneath shots, right? And getting caught a lot on the way in. Errol Spence Jr. works himself in behind a very, very responsible jab and in a very, very responsible manner. So he's not really getting caught a lot on the way in. When he's on the inside and he is throwing a lot of shots, just by the virtue of being inside shots, you're going to get hit here, you're going to get hit there, but he's somebody that works in there very, very responsibly. So what is Terence Crawford going to do in order to keep Errol Spence Jr. off him and keep him from getting that fight on the inside, which is an area from my observation that Terence Crawford does not fight a lot in. Terence Crawford fights a lot at the mid-range, and he fights a lot at outside and mid-range or edge. Sometimes he'll stay on the edge, right? On the edge of outer range. I forget what the specific terms are for the different 5 or 6 different range, but there's out of range, there's on the edge of range, there's long range, and then there's mid range, and then there's inside, and then there's the inside, right? So he'll spend a good amount of time when he's trying to figure out you on the edge of range, right? Quickly enough for him to get into mid-range or get into mid-range to land a big hook, because most times those big hooks land at mid-range. So he'll be out of range, he'll be at the edge of range, get into outside range, then jump in ranges quickly, right? Well, if Errol Spence Jr., but he does not typically fight at close range. Where Errol Spence Jr. stays pretty much in range, gets to mid-range and works himself inside. And when he gets inside, it throws a lot of shots and throws a lot of shots all over you. And despite what a lot of people say, Errol Spence Jr. makes adjustments. He makes adjustments in the inside. He makes adjustments to get on into the inside. They're just not subtle. They're not like dramatic ones where you can just obviously see it. Like, for example, the way people categorize Terence Crawford going from orthodox to southpaw as being a big, a really big adjustment. Errol Spence Jr.'s adjustments oftentimes is the punch combinations that he's throwing. Starting up top and ending, instead of trying to end with a left hook to the body, he may end with to the top. He may switch it if the guy's dipping and hit with a left hook on the inside and follow with an upside so that he makes a guy dip and he takes advantage of it down low. And he also listens very clearly and works very well with Derek James, who's responsible for a lot of the adjustments that are taking place in between rounds, right? But, just want to say that's the take of Eddie Chambers was like, look, man, what are you going to do if you can't keep this guy off you? If this dude is successfully able to continue to close range on you? And that's something that Floyd Mayweather Jr. has mentioned before, even with his fights. And that's somebody that is masterful at keeping people off of him, saying, look, man, at a certain point in time, some guys are going to close the distance, and that's just what it is. And if they're going to close it in distance, then you're just going to have to fight. You're not going to be able to avoid that. And what Fast Eddie Chambers is saying is, look, Errol Spence Jr. is probably going to be that guy for Terence Crawford, which is why, hey, man, this guy may very well win that fight. Anyway, I just thought that was real interesting. Put that in the comment section. Put your comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about that specifically. And again, thank you for chopping it up with me about this boxing. And with that, I'm out. Peace.